The Mental Health Show with Mark Aiston.
Clint, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
You're in a wonderful space. I say a wonderful space. I guess, for someone listening, they might think, what a wonderful space where someone's involved in suicide, but a wonderful space in the sense that you want to make a difference and you want to help others. And I think that's a fantastic thing. First things first, tell everyone what you do and the organisation that you run.
Thank you. It's kind of been a long journey. So for me, my company's called the Blue Frame Projects, and it's only fairly new. I've been working many years in different stuff, but I've written a book around suicide prevention, which is really more aimed at schools and that kind of stuff. But with the view, obviously, having worked in HR many years, my previous roles have all been in change management and developing leadership and that kind of stuff. And I guess the commonality between the threads has always been, when I'm working with adults, they've all been kids like we have. And you see these undercurrents of behaviour. And many years ago, I was working in healthcare as a HR professional in the executive group. And I just had access to a lot of information about young people on antidepressants who are obese, who had lots and lots of issues I'm talking 11, 12-year-old kids. And so for me, it was about trying to change a lot of that. My police background also saw kids who were coming from disadvantaged homes. And, it breaks your heart when you see a 3 or 4-year-old kid who's got parents who I'll say it nicely, are no-hopers and been, not very good role models for their children. And you worry about where this kid's going to end up and how they're going to kind of progress if no one does something. And obviously schools for me is a part where we can leverage a lot because you've got them there for long periods of time. You've got some structure there. And I just think that, we probably don't leverage enough about that. So the book's kind of written a lot around that. And so when you say what organisation, the stuff I'm working from my own company is more around providing programs to schools and also obviously, there's a school program that's for younger people, and then that's the proactive stuff, and then there's the reactive stuff, which is your common normal counselling and the stuff that come with that. So there's a combination of the two is what I'm really focusing on.
Getting to the cause first is the key, isn't it? I mean, if we can try and not so much eradicate, I think that, it would be a wonderful goal to have, to eradicate it. Obviously, that would be, I'm sure, that would be your goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can get there early. Just going back to a point that I'm really interested in, and that was the comment you made about the parents. Role models. This just highlights how important role models are, whether they be parents or whether they be your uncle and auntie if you're living with them, or whether they be some mentors, or whether they be school friends. That setup is so important, isn't it?
Definitely, and that's kind of another piece that, a lot of times we don't know what we don't know. And when I've run the sessions with groups of people that I've had in the workplace, when I've run sessions on a bit more about them understanding how their brain works, how we learn as kids, a lot of it's quite passive early on, and then also how, our undercurrent of personality, if you like, can flow through into the workplace as we grow from kids into adulthood. And then I can kind of see how a lot of that, if people knew more about that earlier on. Now I'm teaching this to people who are in their 40s, 50s, been working many, many years at a work level, and they don't know any of this stuff, or how they get a role model talk about it in a way that's going to help a child, a grandchild, or a nephew and niece, or people in the sporting field. So for me, that's part of, I guess, where I've kind of ended up doing what I'm doing at the moment, where the book is about bringing that into the forefront. Start thinking about, do you know how your neurons wire and fire together? Do you know how you create those habits? Some of them are good, and most of it is built that way. But then also how you can, if you are in a stuck place where things happen. When I dealt with people as a counsellor many years ago with PTSD, they get stuck. They might be very perfectly healthy people, and an event happens, like I worked with police, right? And they have an event that just happens, and then suddenly their life just goes completely off course. and they don't know how to unthink their way out of it, unthink their way to create a different habit of thinking to get themselves out of that rut. And so they kind of spiral, and then they also don't understand how the body chemistry changes when you're in that state. Like if you're constantly in a stress mode, your cortisol levels go up, and then you don't have a desire to do the things that can actually get you out. So you're actually your body's working against you. So, there's a lot of combinations of things that come into play there. And again, when I run these sessions with people who are adults and been around a long time, it's all brand new to them. So again, it's about highlighting that, thinking in a different way, and kind of, I guess getting people to come up with different solutions. There's lots of ways to the top of this mountain, and, I don't think we will ever eradicate it, but if we can do enough early on when people are getting skilled up, even if they just think differently, go, oh, do I really think like that? What can I do? And that's why lots of different counselling and lots of different things work for people, because they all have the same, I guess when I look at counselling, and there's all different, psychological theorists on what's the best one, do you use this or do you use that, go for a walk, meditate, all those things, they all have a very common outcome in that they choose you to use a part of the brain that focuses in a different way. And ultimately that's kind of the message, saying it doesn't matter what you do as long as you're doing that and trying to work your way through, having emotions. People talk about negative emotions. There's no negative emotions. It's the classic, you just don't want to be stuck in ones that make you go down into a downward spiral. It's a trigger and it makes you focus. That's what it should do. But what happens is people they tend to focus on the bad part of it, and that's where they go, and that's where they constantly go, whereas they should be going, okay, it's there. I'm sad because something bad happened. We're human beings, right? And this is life. It's not going to be easy every day, and things are going to happen. We're going to lose people that we love, or, you got a sick dog that you were saying before, and, our dog's 17 years old, so we're kind of getting ready for him not being with us, and, it's going to be a sad day when that happens, but it's about how we bounce back, how we can deal with it and understand that, hey, this is a temporary thing. That's the thing I hate about the whole suicide stuff, especially with younger people. I could kind of understand, when people are in a lot of pain and they're older and stuff, and there's kind of their quality of life is never going to get better based on any kind of, the whole euthanasia debate comes in there. But when you're dealing with 11 and 12-year-olds who are just having a problem right now, and then, they decide they want to kill themselves, it's heartbreaking, because you can see that, and sometimes there's no symptoms. People ask me a lot when I run these sessions, so, how do you know if someone's struggling? Well, there are some signs, but sometimes there's none. I was reading an article just yesterday where a young boy, committed suicide here. He's like 13, 14 years old. And his parents are like, good kid from great family, was happy playing footy and basketball and all this stuff. And they had no idea it was coming.
So why? I mean, why would that happen? I mean, do you have a theory on that, or is it just totally different for every single person?
I think it's a big combination. So when they ask me those questions, and what you're just asking me there, I say it's really important that it's not about us identifying it when someone else is in pain. It's about them going, when you're in pain, right? Or you've got problem. It's why aren't they having that conversation with the people that they know, love and trust? So in the background, there's always... when I do this thing, I use something called the dialogue model, where I go, if two people are having good dialogue and having a conversation about something, and we both feel safe about having that conversation, we'll have it. When there's an issue of the safety to have that conversation, well, for one of those parties, then they don't have it.
No.
So for us, it's about, not just trying to identify when someone's there, but we also want to give them what we call a psychological safety, where they feel comfortable and say, you know what, I'm actually struggling. I need you to do this, or I'm just struggling. I don't know what to do. But, like if this kid had gone to his parents before he did it and said something, they would have done something with it. Now, whether that's promoting the conversations, and this is part of the thing in my book about having kids, and that's why I say at work level, when we got adults, there's lots of people that are too scared to talk about even mental health. When I was working recently, I had a guy probably in his mid-50s, and, he was absent from work, and, they obviously keen on making sure we're reducing absenteeism and stuff. And he opened up to me and said, look, I've got mental health problems. I struggle with this. I don't go talking to my boss about it because he's not the guy that I want to talk to. I'll talk to you because I kind of know that's your thing, and I've run these sessions at work, and so they kind of feel comfortable with me. But again, it's that if I don't feel comfortable talking to someone, whoever that is, I'm not going to do it. Or if they get ridiculed for it, or, just condescending names for it and all that kind of stuff, just because you're struggling, people will just shut down. And the other thing is, if other people see what happens to someone else, they'll shut down too, because then that's safety by, vicarious kind of association. So it's a hard one. So I think, we need to do a number of things with this. One is, yes, that proactive, but I think we can definitely at school level build in that understanding of, let's get kids talking about anything earlier on, make it kind of, facilitated by the teacher. We teach them the skills to run those sessions, and that has to be 15, 20 minutes a day kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
But, it's about getting them used to doing it. It's also about getting them talking about it as a group, because once it's a group, the other kids now calibrate. When I run sessions with adults, usually sometimes they won't want to talk at the start, but then when one goes first, creates the safety. And again, understanding that safety piece, where if there's even a little bit of safety in it, we'll shut down and not say anything, or we don't say the full version of it. And that's kind of the key to this whole thing. It's about understanding how you're thinking, but why aren't I saying stuff? And that's where the dialogue model is important, about giving them that courage to go, you know what, I don't feel comfortable talking about this, but I'm going to do it because you've done something that's really done something bad towards me, or and it's that piece that I think that's completely missing. Certainly, in Australia, and looking at the adults that I'm talking about, it's definitely an issue.
Yeah, without any doubt, it's getting better.
Yes.
In a general sense, Clint, as you'd know, talking about mental health generally is getting better, and I think that's occurred over the last 10 years or so.
Absolutely.
So that's a good thing. But you make a really good point. It's the person who's feeling unwell having the courage, to reach out and speak to someone. But, and again, you would be on top of this completely, it's also a skill to understand how to, as someone who's well, who observes someone who's unwell, to actually instigate that dialogue and sort of know what to say and how to say it, because you can. I'm not saying you can do that wrong. I'm not saying that process can be absolutely wrong, because any conversation hopefully is going to be okay.
Yeah.
But it's a skill, isn't it, to know how to handle it if you're trying to help someone. That's a skill.
Absolutely. And when the sessions, so I ran one of these sessions. We had a company I worked for. We had a lot of farms, so out northern Queensland, Anyway, I used to run this for our guys, because they're in kind of communities, if you like. They're taking cattle on rides, and the groups are pretty tight. They work together, and it's quite lonely out there and all this kind of stuff. And I ran one of these sessions, to your point, and I do go into some ways of thinking and how you can help. And some of this was more for kind of middle management, lower management, who are not used to looking after your team kind of stuff. We had a young guy who literally a week after I'd run the session with him, had a person, not one of his team, just happened to be in town, who was about to commit suicide. Anyway, he said he just remembers me talking to him about understanding the dialogue model, asking this guy high-level questions, because when you're in that state, you're in that what I call red brain, and the key, as I said, is to get them to focus on stuff. So the tools I kind of talked to him is about asking them high-level questions and that kind of stuff, because it forces them to think. When you're in red brain, all the most of the blood drains out, goes into fight or flight mode. So what you want to do is try and physiologically change that. So by asking the high-level question, it uses a different part of that brain, which is not the amygdala, which is the small bit. It's a bigger part of the brain. So it forces the blood to go back up to actually answer it. So using those kinds of techniques is an important way to get them to just refocus.
Yeah, if you don't mind, give me an example. Yeah, that's interesting. So what did you say? High-level questions, did you say?
Yeah, so, asking them questions about something in the future. So if you have to think about a future state, you actually have to use the prefrontal cortex of the brain to come up with some kind of solutions, come up with some way of answering that. And so if you can get them to think that way, I used to use the same techniques when I was doing stuff with the police with tactical disengagement. When you're dealing with a person who's really angry and violent with you, and you as a cop, you don't want to go straight into fire, having a fight with this person. You want to talk them down. It's a similar, again, it's a slightly different because they want to do you harm, but in this case, it's all again about getting them focused. And so, the things that tend to calm people down a bit more is when you force them to have to think about something, rather than, you're doing one up on each other.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, absolutely. And again, that needs to be taught, because that's stuff that we don't know.
Correct.
Yeah.
So in my book, I go into a lot of that kind of thing. So I've written the book in a way. So the book originally started as a school program that I designed after getting that information when I worked in healthcare, where I was like, well, what can I do to help these young disadvantaged kids who maybe don't have great role models at home? And part of it was about coming up with just some ideas for teachers, because, again, I don't think they teach the teachers those things. And again, I'm looking at leverage, right? It's not about just one guy selling a program. This is about trying to teach the educators and the teachers about, you've got these kids, there's hundreds and thousands of kids all every day coming to school 5 days a week kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be a lot, but you're slowly chipping at it. And maybe it's not one of those curriculum things that, you get tested on and stuff, but it's just a skill that I've certainly seen. So I don't know if you've heard of Human Synergistics.
No, not at all. Tell me.
So Human Synergistics is a company that run 360-degree feedback, usually for management. So, they get feedback from their peers, people they report to them, and people they report to. And you get this thing called a circumplexity. It's based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But what it does do is it kind of shows, and they do this all around the world. There's surveys all around the world, and they compare your results with what they call a norm, which is obviously the average out there kind of stuff. And in a nutshell, what it shows is that the worst 10% of managers have a particular style, and that style is usually dominated by what the fight or flight undercurrent, if you like. And what it shows the results of what you as a person think about yourself and what your life's like. And again, that's at the bottom end. If you're in those highly aggressive or highly defensive people, or highly defensive managers, tend to be worse as a manager. They're also seen as being worse as a manager, and their own personal life is also lower. They got higher stress levels, all this kind of stuff. So again, that common thread that comes through, if I'm highly aggressive as a manager, you kind of know what that style looks like, right? It's the guy who's my way or the highway kind of guy. You picture, a drill sergeant who's just yelling at you people and getting a result. And obviously that doesn't bode well for, I guess, certain roles, and people don't want to do extra stuff for you because there's a cost to being that kind of manager. No one likes you. You tend to have lots of turnover, lots of, you might get a result by ruling with the iron fist and getting that fear, but you're not going to get any real true engagement. And no one wants to be, always when I run these sessions, I ask, how many people likes to be yelled at work? Well, not many put their hand up, right?
Yeah.
But then on the other side, the defensive ones, the ones that are highly defensive, they're kind of the people pleasers. They also have problems because they don't, the people see them as, they just get walked over, they kind of just want to please people and they don't actually get the job done. So there's a number of factors that come into that, but ultimately it still sticks out as if I'm a highly fearful person as a kid and I've lived in a place, and I have this undercurrent go with me, no one teaches me how to change that. I think it's my personality. I just think I've become Clint Adams at 14, 15, whatever, and you don't kind of go, I really should think about who do I actually want to be? Do I want to be more aggressive because I'm too timid? I don't stand up for myself, for example. So there's all these little things that come along the way where we're giving them some life skills. And as teachers, especially for the younger kids when they first come into school, we're kind of drip feeding this stuff into them. They're getting an opportunity to have these conversations. They're getting this opportunity to interact with each other, and they're calibrating the behaviour with all the other kids there, right? Like, say, if you pull my hair at school, and we have a chance each day to have conversations about things that we didn't like today, I can go, okay, look, Mark, I didn't like how you pulled my hair or how you called little Johnny, whatever you called him, because this, and this. And now we're talking about it, whereas in the past, I'll go to the teacher, you tattletale, and then it becomes an interaction that's not as positive as it could be, because now that person's angry, you've tattled on them, they've got in trouble, and they're going to take it out on you harder tomorrow. All that stuff.
I could talk to you about management and management style and then culture, and all of that is so linked. to looking after your people within your organisation. I could talk to you about that, and we will. We'll do it. I'd love to talk to you about that and talk about that in detail, and clearly. It still amazes me, Clint, how many people become managers or CEOs or directors of companies who, in my humble opinion, are terrible at it. But anyway, that's the discussion for another time. If you don't mind me asking, why are you so passionate about this, particularly the suicide aspect? Is there history in your family? Have you, if you don't mind me asking, I guess it's a very personal question, and it may, your answer simply may be, well, I'm just passionate about it. But is there more to it?
I think I've always wanted to be a helper of people. I grew up in South Africa, I'm an only child, and I used to spend a lot of time with my grandmother. So a lot of it came about wanting to help other people. My grandma, we lived in, like I said, South Africa. This is through the apartheid days and stuff. And there was a lot of really poor people. We weren't exactly rich, and Grandma wasn't that rich, but obviously a bit better off than most. Yeah. And I used to just remember her making sandwiches for, just random people that come to the house. She didn't want any payment on it, but just seeing, these people would just say, no, we can't give you nothing. So they would donate their time and do gardening and clean up around the place, even though she doesn't want that. And it kind of always stuck with me about, kind of giving back. I'm not very religious, but certainly my grandmother was, and I grew up in that kind of environment, I guess, and it was always about trying to help people. So all my roles, I've always wanted to do that. But on top of that, I did have a friend commit suicide when I was in my early 20s, and that did hit me quite hard, and I still remember, how his family reacted in terms of what could we have done? And they beat themselves up.
Of course.
And at the same time, you always wonder what else could I have done? I should have done this or talked about that. And it does stick in there for you because, and that's why when I've written the book too, the whole book's written around a kid that's committed suicide, but I really wanted to highlight how many people are affected, including the bully that bullies this kid. The people that are standing on the side and laughing about it, which gets the bully doing more things, and and so there's a number of people affected by just one suicide, and I kind of wanted to convey that through the book too, and then I guess seeing as I said with the police going into houses and seeing these young kids, and you're just thinking if only we could interrupt whatever's going on here. If we, you're not going to turn their parents around overnight. They've got all kinds of things, drug users, all this kind of stuff. And at the moment, even with COVID, it's even more scary. A lot of people losing their jobs. That's one big thing already. So, financial problems, and then, being isolated, not being allowed to go anywhere and all that kind of thing. It's just got to be. So I guess, for me, I don't know where it started from, but there's a number of reasons I probably ended up going down this path.
And I'm presuming that from a selfish point of view, and I mean this very respectfully, I would presume that you helping others helps you.
I think so. Look,
from here I'm talking about, yeah.
Yeah, it does. And look, even when I do work with managers, for example, I've got a few guys that have come up that I've worked with and coached them as a manager, not so much from a suicide prevention, but it's all about getting their mind right and understanding. Like I say, with the human synergistic stuff, when I can kind of see where, they let things get them down or that kind of, and it'll happen, right? We're not going to get it right 100% ever. There's no doubt about that. But it's when you see them progress and then they become better at what they do, they become great managers, and you just go, wow, that's like that kind of stuff does excite me, and seeing people, I guess, get better at what they do. And this is no different. This is about saying, well, hey, why aren't we doing some other stuff? If we can get young kids getting better at this and their academics pick up and their confidence picks up and they feel okay in their own skin, despite the fact that mum and dad aren't exactly the best role models. But now I can go and talk to my peers. I feel comfortable standing up for myself. I'm getting more and more comfortable with that. And with all that just builds on any child, I think, and as I said, there's many ways to the top of the mountain, but I think we need to kind of give them some guidance a bit more in this space.
I was just thinking then, obviously as a child, if you suffer some horrific stuff like sexual abuse or car crash or lose a parent, I understand that can trigger stuff, you know. I mean,
Absolutely.
It doesn't in everyone, but it can.
Yes.
Have you done any research, or do you have any personal thoughts about whether or not one small incident in your life early on can trigger something, but you sort of, you just don't see it because it wasn't significant at the time, and it may not be significant now, but just it might be something that someone said, something that your father said. What's your thoughts on that?
I think when it becomes problematic for you is when you're thinking about it a lot. So one of the things when I was dealing with people with PTSD and even that kind of stuff is just analysing your thoughts a little bit. Yeah. Doing analysis work, again, is a blue brain function, right? So you need that blue brain to think about analysis work. So I usually get them to do a thoughts diary. And, you know, whether that's just something that you go, oh, geez, I'm noticing a pattern of the same thought popping in my head.
Yeah.
And look, trauma is definitely one of those, everything's risk factors, same as you would with health and safety. If you go, you know, if this and this things don't happen, then Swiss cheese will tell you the hole will be there at some point and the worst will happen. So, trauma first up. If a child's had trauma, they're more likely to go down a path of mental health issues in the future. So again, doing stuff early enough with those higher risk people, to me, is another part of the puzzle, right? Yes, you can do stuff at school level, but you can't account for every kid's trauma. And we don't expect the teachers to be counsellors, and counsellors don't get it right all the time either. This is about having a multi-pronged attack for a very complex issue. And so I think, you know, at the very least, and this comes back to my first point around us getting ready for conversations, if you've got a kid who's had trauma and, you know, a lot of times they won't say stuff that's happened to them because they're really young and someone threatened them pretty bad at home. I was talking on a panel not long ago about, you know, the sex slavery industry and some of that stuff's horrendous. And, you know, they're extracting kids out of these horrible places in Thailand and stuff. And so, you know, when you talk about that, if you've got a kid in Australia who's having trauma at home or getting abused at home, you know, they don't say anything. And there's a reason for that because they're scared. Again, the fear factor stuff comes in. But if we've got an environment where they're getting used to talking about it, they may just have that conversation earlier and something happens and they go, hang on, that child's not right. They feel comfortable with the teacher or they tell another kid that they know. Because, again, the calibration piece is that can be normal to them. If they've been abused from a really early age, they normalise that because they know something's not right, but they kind of...
It's that they don't know what they don't know sort of thing.
Exactly.
Clint, as I say, and I definitely want to speak to you again about management and culture.
Sure.
Which is linked to all. I think that's fascinating, and I know that a lot of my listeners and viewers would be really, really interested in that, and also they would gain a lot of insight. I think culture within organisations is a topic that needs to, because it's all linked, as you know, as you've said.
Absolutely.
But I, as I say, I'm flabbergasted at how bad the culture is in some companies that we look at from afar and think, wow, what a great company, and yet to work for them would be a disaster. So your company's name is?
Blue Flame Projects. Cool. Most people can find me on LinkedIn at the moment.
Oh, that was my next question. So LinkedIn and the book. The name of the book, please.
Yep. So the name of the book, that's what it looks like. It's called Lighting the Blue Flame. So it's a UK publisher. So you can get it at most like Amazon, Goodreads. So you just go online, Google it. There's a number of different places.
Clint, thank you so much for talking to me.
Thanks for having me, Mark. I really appreciate it, mate.